Alright guys, quick one. We want to check and understand the concept of function. What is a function? First of all, before we move further, a function is a relation. A function is a relation in which each input gives a unique output. And when we put in something that is unique, it should give us a unique answer. It should be mapped to a unique value. So we have types of functions. We have implicit function and we have explicit functions. So what is exactly an explicit function? From the word explicit, it is very clear. Explicit, when something is clear enough, clearly defined, it's explicit. So mathematically we can say explicit functions are functions that are expressed as regards to a single variable, just one variable. For example, if I have something like this, f of x is equals to x plus 1. Now the only variable you can see here is just x, so it is explicitly defined to be a function of x. So or we have something like f to the phi, so we have phi squared. Whatever variable we want to have must not exceed that phi. It must not exceed this single variable, must not exceed that single variable that we have here. That is what explicit function is. But when we talk about that is implicit functions, implicit function, they are also different from, it's just like the opposite of this. Implicit function is a type of function that I express with respect to more than a single variable. For example, if we have f to the x comma y, in this case you'll be having two, because I'm having x and y, so I'll be having something, but you should not exceed that x and y you grab. So we have 2, probably x squared plus y minus 1, but the aim is whatever that is defined in this brackets should be our variable that we will be dealing with. We have x and we have y. So that is an implicit function. Implicit function. So the major difference here is explicit is just a single variable, while implicit is more than one variable. I can even have something like this. I can decide to have, it depends on the examiner actually. So I can have something like x to the y to the z. What does this mean? It means that I'm going to be having variable that are x, y, z. You can't expect me to have w in this kind of function. So if I want to just create a question here, I can have x squared plus 2yz minus y something, just something. But carefully observing this, there is nothing like probably p or w that is not defined in this bracket. So that is an explicit implicit function. So implicit is more than one variable, explicit is just a single variable. So let's move into doing some questions so we can actually understand what this function and the concept of function is all about. So let's take a simple example. For example, if I have give me that fx is equal to 2x squared then to the plus of 3, and you are asked to find f3. Very simple. You can see carefully that this x and this 3, they are occupying the same position, right? That means wherever I see x in the given expression, I will replace it with this 3. So let's quickly do that. So to get my f3, this one is representing this position, it's occupying the position. So it also means that wherever I see x, I'm going to replace it with 3. Okay, so I have 3 here plus 3. This is standing for the x. So that means I'm going to be having 2, 3 to the square is 9 plus 3. This gives me 18 plus 3, and that will be 21. Very simple. this same question, if you're asked to get f4, very simple also, f4, you get to get f4, still doing the same thing. You're going to have 2 into wherever we have x, I will replace it with what? With 4. So 4 plus 3, which means I'm going to have 2 to the 16 and plus 3. Plus 3. So 2 times 16 is 32 plus 3, and that is 35. Very simple. Suppose we want to do one more example for this particular question. Suppose we want to do something. Let's clear so we can have enough space here. Suppose you're asked to still get f minus 4 for this same expression. You know what to do, right? You have 2 into wherever you see that x, I'll put my minus 4 to substitute for that x, then plus 3, which means I'm going to be having 2 into the 16, right? To the 16 plus 3. Same thing, just as we've done this one. 32 plus 3. So they're just very, very simple to work with. That is 35. Now let's take an example for an implicit function, so we can clearly get the idea of the concept of functions, whether implicit or explicit. Suppose we are given x, comma y into 2x squared y minus 4x minus 2y. Now, what type of function is this? This is implicit because I have more than a single variable. I'm having x and I'm having y. So this is an implicit function. An implicit function. So to do this, for example, you're asked to find f to 1, comma 1. So how do you do this? You have f 1, comma 1. What does this denote? It means that this x is occupying the position of this one, then this one is occupying this. Whenever I see x, I'll put 1. Whenever I see y, I put 1. Quickly. So let's say x, our x is 1, and our y is also 1. Our y is also 1. Minus 4. You know that 1 is there to represent our values. Quickly, so this will be definitely f1 comma 1 will be equal to 1 squared is 1 times 1, that's 1, times 2, that's 2, minus 4 minus 2. Obviously this cancel out. Then my final answer for f1 comma 1 is minus 4. So that's how to get this question. Now let's do one more example. Suppose you're asked to do something like this. Suppose you're asked to find, given a function f x comma y, just the same question that we just finished doing. I have 4x squared y minus 4x minus 2y. Now what type of function is this? This is an implicit function. An implicit function, which means I'm having more than one variable. I'm having x and I'm having y. So to start with, if you are asked to get this, so what do? F 0 comma minus 2. This simply means that x goes to 0 and y represents minus 2 in this equation. So to get this, I'm going to be having 4 Instead of writing x, it's represented by what? By 0. So I'm going to be writing 0 for x squared. Then for my y, I'm going to be having minus 2 for my y. Then I'm going to have minus 4. My x is actually 0. Minus 2. Then my y is minus 2. Which simply means, if I want to write this, I have f 0 minus 2 is equal to, all this becomes 0 because of the 0 here. This becomes 0 also. Alright, so it's got 0 times 4 is 0. This is 0. So here, minus times minus is plus, then 2 times 2 is 4. So this is 4. Very simple and very easy to approach. Now, suppose you want to get advanced with your workings. In some situations where you have a question like this, f into x minus 1 to the function 3x squared plus 4x minus 1. Now, this question has been provided, and you're asked to get, f minus 2, and you're also asked to get f to the 3. Let's start with this simple one. What this is simply saying is that we want this 3 to replace this one, because they are both occupying the brackets. They are both occupying this bracket here, the 3 and this x minus 1. So what I want to do is, what value of x am I going to add here that will make the whole of these brackets become 3? Very simple to do. So what we need to do is x minus 1. We want to make x minus 1 to become 3, which means for x minus 1 to become 3, that means 3, you want to bring this one to the other side. So I'll have plus 1. So x needs to be 4 for these to become 3, which means that if I should write f, x is now 4, right? X minus 1 equals to 3. Don't forget, my x is not 4. My x is not 3. My x is actually 4. So instead of writing this x, I write what? 4. I write 4 squared plus 4 into 4, right, minus 1, which means I'll have 3 into 16 plus 16 minus 1. Okay, into 16 minus 1, which means that by the time I want to write this, 16 times 3, that is 48 plus 16 minus 1. Okay, so 48 plus 16, that is 64. That's 64 minus 1, and that is 63. So that is how to do something like this. So you just want to make this to be equal to what is here. Same thing goes to minus 2. You want to do something to get minus 2. Very simple to do and very quick. This is what you do. You just say that you want to make x minus 1 to become minus 2. So what do? You have x equals to minus 2. Then this coming here, I'll have plus 1. Minus 2 plus 1, that is minus 1. Which means that in the quest to make x minus 1 become minus 2, x need to take the form minus 1. Which means we can now have x into minus 1, representing this x here, into my 3 to, what's my x now? My x is not minus 2, but my x is what? Minus 1. To complete the operation of getting f minus 2 squared plus 4 minus 1 minus 1. So I have f into minus 1, that's minus 2, Okay, and that will be, this gives me 3, and this is minus 4 minus 1. So this we have x minus 2, so this gets 1 is minus 5. Okay, minus 5. So minus 3 minus 5 is minus 2. Very simple. And that is how we can get to solve this one. Alright, this is very clear and simple. Okay, one more example on this type of expression. One more example so we can really get the context of this work. Suppose you have f into 2x plus 1 equals to x squared plus 3x minus 2, and you are required to get fx. What do? You say you still want to make the whole of this assume this x. So what I'll do is to make 2x plus 1 equals to this x, but for us to identify it, we'll make this one a green x, so that we can identify the type of x. So because we need to get this particular x, which means I will have 2x into x minus 1, and I'll have x to be equals to x minus 1. Okay, x minus 1 over 2, which we can now say that my f into 2, you know what my s now is, x minus 1 over 2. Okay, my plus 1, so I'm gonna have x minus 1 over 2 to the squared plus 3 x minus 1 over 2, then plus minus 2 minus 2. Okay, so here this can cancel this obviously, so I have f into x minus 1 plus 1, so I have x squared, if I do the square of this one, x squared minus 2x plus 1 over 4 plus 3x minus 3 over 2 minus 2. So this cancels this. Finally my answer will be fx, okay, equals to the whole of this after simplification. That's how to do this concept of function. So in the next video we're going to be doing composite functions and inverse functions.